told Noah, build me an ark, build it out of hickory bark. Noah said, now, where do I start? I said, love comes naturally. Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. Merry Christmas. And it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. I'm beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Okay, first of all, I want to thank everybody who is watching this video, either on our YouTube channel or on BitChute or on Rumble or any of the various video platforms where it appears. Please subscribe to those platforms. It helps us keep better connection to you, and it makes you able to watch all the videos and possibly get notified once they are uploaded. And I also will ask you to consider becoming a member of the Community Miracle Center's healing team if you are not already a member. It's a wonderful way to get a inspirational message from me every morning. And it's also a great way to fulfill our function. Course in Miracles tells us the healing of the world is all that the world is for. So join us in healing the world in an organized manner with a dedicated group of miracle healers. Okay, it is the holiday season again. Of course, it's Christmas, but Hanukkah's also coming up. This is one of those unusual years where Hanukkah and Christmas will actually correspond. Christmas will be one of the days of Hanukkah. I believe it's the maybe the 7th day of Hanukkah. And then Kwanzaa coming up right after that. We will have our regular Kwanzaa service this year. This year, that'll be on January 1st, New Year's Day. And Reverend Vincent will again be leading us in our Kwanzaa service. So this is the first Christmas in 3 years that has been truly open. And I've definitely noticed it this year. So it seems like every night when I drive home from the office, there's another house that's all decked out with lights and Christmas images. And it just does my heart so good to see those things. I really enjoy, and I just really appreciate the effort and the expense that many people choose to put out to make their home this form of street art for us all to enjoy for free. I think it's just amazing, and that's why I was thinking that it is beginning to look a lot like Christmas. The homes are getting decorated, and of course, as Reverend Peter says, stars and light. I mean, this is all the imagery of Christmas. In the reading, there was the sign of Christmas is a star, a light in darkness. See it not outside yourself, but shining in the heaven within, and accept it as the sign the time of Christ has come. So we may see these lights out there, but they should bring to mind the light that is always within us. And we need to just accept that light and see it as meaning that the time of our own Christed nature is at hand. So, sometimes people criticize me. I got some criticism this morning that I focus too much on the externals because I was talking about how great it was to see all the houses lit. But, for me, it's automatic that when I see those things, it reminds me of the light inside of me and the Christed nature that is within me. And I think it's great that we share that in an external way. Of course, also says, let no despair darken the joy of Christmas, for the time of Christ is meaningless apart from joy. Again, this was in the reading that Reverend Peter read. So we need to be joyful. And we need not to let anything make us hopeless. I mean, despair, I talked about that a week or two ago. It means hopelessness. So we should never be hopeless. There is always hope because there is the Christ within us, and the Christ within us brings us hope. So think about that in these 2 weeks we have left in the approach to Christmas, and really let no despair darken that joy that is there for the seasons. Last year in 2021, Christmas season, Christmas Day, very different energy going on. For those of you who don't remember or maybe don't want to remember, we were in the midst of that huge COVID surge that started in like November, December, a lot of COVID cases, January, a tremendous number of COVID cases, and things that had opened up in the late summer and fall now started closing up again because we were having this surge of COVID. Last year, because of a COVID surge, on Christmas morning, had to cancel a Christmas party we had planned because my wonderful apartment mate, Reverend Peter, came down with COVID on Christmas morning. Woohoo! We dealt with it in the appropriate way. I called everybody up who was planning to come and told them that we just couldn't do it. And, we coped, we blessed, and we healed through it all. But, it was a challenging time. Now, since I didn't have a Christmas party, my sister, Sarah, who's here today, was visiting, and we decided to go out and, check out the holiday decorations. And so actually, I want to show you a picture of Sarah and I. There we are. Okay. That's Sarah and I last year, Christmas Day, going out and looking for Christmas decorations. Now, isn't that house beautiful and joyful and festive? But the ironic thing is that is the only house in the entire city of San Francisco that we could find decorated. And I just really want to bless whoever those people were. They were keeping the Christmas spirit alive. And we drove all over Christmas Day just looking for any kind of decorations. And it was really bleak. There was really none. Some people had a few things in a window. We couldn't find anybody else that had decorated the outside of their house, but this house. But there it is, and it is beautiful. And they weren't letting any despair darken their joy of Christmas. So I really appreciate that those people kept the spirit of the holiday alive. I think there was something, with people don't remember about that second COVID wave was particularly depressing because, we had been dealing with COVID for, quite a while, and it had seemed to have gotten better in the summer and the fall of 2021. And a lot of people had gotten vaccinated, and there was this idea that maybe it was over. So when the second wave, which turned out to be the largest wave of sickness that we had, suddenly came up, it was particularly challenging and depressing. It reminded me of this passage, which is actually from the psychotherapy pamphlet. It says, "Sickness and death and misery now stalk the earth in unrelenting waves, sometimes together, and sometimes in grim succession." So this was particularly grim. And, we had a big wave. Maybe actually we'd had two waves, and people were hoping because of all the mitigation strategies, and certainly because of this wonderful vaccine that we had that was supposed to stop transmission, that maybe it was over. But yet, it wasn't over. And we had this huge wave last winter. As a matter of fact, shortly into the new year, I got COVID, pretty severe case of COVID. So, it was going on. But A Course in Miracles wants us to acknowledge the glimpses of the real world and of reality and maybe of heaven that we see here in this world. And, actually that house that I just showed you, that was a glimpse, just a little glimpse last year to show me that light was still out there, and some people were still, doing their best to demonstrate and communicate light. And so I'm always encouraging people to recognize the glimpses. And, that's what witnessing is. You witness, you recognize a glimpse. You recognize when a healing has happened. Okay. Course in Miracles tells us that miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. So miracles are happening all the time. And we have to, I believe, acknowledge them. And I think that people have this tendency to not want to do that. I don't really understand that. I always want to acknowledge them. As I've said many times, it's very easy for people to put healing requests on our healing list. But then when the issue clears up, they just can't seem to get the energy or the time to send me a quick email to let me know that they've been healed. And then, I share those emails with the team, and the team always loves to read them. But I have to really push people and pressure people to do that. For some reason, it doesn't come natural for them to do that. And miracles are happening all the time. And I think we need to acknowledge them. We need to give them energy. We need to feed that dog. That's the happy dog. There's an old quote, which dog is going to stay alive? Is it going to be the happy dog of miracles and health? Or is it going to be the vicious dog of lack and sickness? Well, which dog stays alive? The dog that stays alive is the dog that you will feed. So I believe we truly need to feed the happy dog of witness to miracles. And so I want to spend a little time doing that. And, that's what I am doing. Last year, it was pretty gloomy. We needed masks to go everywhere. We needed to stand 6 feet apart from anybody if we were in the grocery store or if we were in the bank. We had to show proof of vaccination here in San Francisco if we wanted to go inside and eat in a restaurant. It was really a show us your papers kind of society. And for those who did not have those papers like me, it was a challenging time. But, every time I walk into my bank now and don't see those decals on the floor telling me where I need to stand, I think that's a little glimpse of heaven. And I want to acknowledge it and witness that. That's a miracle for me. Every time I go to my big supermarket again and don't see those decals anymore on the floor telling me that I got to be 2 shopping carts away from the next person, I am happy. And I see that as a miracle. And I see that as healing. Every time I get on public transportation and the sign on the bus now says masks advised instead of masks required, I am joyful. I see that as a miracle. And I see that as a little glimpse that heaven is breaking through. Course says, why are you not rejoicing? You are free of pain and sickness, misery and loss, and all the effects of hatred and attack. So I want to rejoice. I want to rejoice all the time. I want to certainly rejoice at every opportunity and for every little thing that seems like a healing to me. These are the glimpses that A Course in Miracles is talking about, I believe. The Course says, vision will come to you at first in glimpses, but they will be enough to show you what has given you who see your brother sinless. So this is how vision happens. It happens first in little glimpses. Every time I drive by a house now, all decorated up with joyful lights and Christmas imagery, it's a little glimpse. And I, in the back of my mind, remember how hard it was to find just one house last year that was decorated. Now houses are decorated all over the place, and I'm so happy. Course in Miracles talks about the glimpses again. It says, not one in this distracted world, but have seen some glimpses of the other world about him, Yet while he still lays value on his own, he will deny the vision of the other world. So when the Course says not one but, what it means is everybody has. Everybody does see glimpses of the healed, happy world about him all the time. And which dog are you feeding? Are you feeding that happy dog of witnesses to joy and light and peace? Well, I certainly want to feed the happy dog. I don't want to feed the starving wolf that's going to tear at me. I want to acknowledge the good things, and good things are happening all the time. And honestly, I don't know why more people don't focus in on them, especially more Course in Miracles students. We should be focusing in on the good things. We should be feeding and petting that wonderful animal so that we get more of them. Okay, a lot of great things happen. This past week, I thought, I'm going to talk about a few of them. Okay, so, there's this common dialogue that we hear, this discussion, this gloom and doom discussion about how dysfunctional government is and how divided our government is. We live in this partisan world. Everything is so right and left, red and blue, Republican, Democrat. They never work together. They never can get anything done. Well, maybe not so much. There was a bill that passed in our federal government this past week, H.R. 8404, the Respect of Marriage Act, that passed with a very strong bipartisan support. So sometimes the left and the right actually do work together. So guys, this is the bill that's trying to codify gay marriage. And the people are a little concerned that as the Supreme Court struck down abortion rights, that maybe at some point the Supreme Court would strike down gay marriage. And so people are trying to find a way to write that into law so that it is protected. So what this bill says is that while states can still decide what they want to do about marriage rights, if two people, let's say two people of the same gender, if two people have been legally married in one state, every state in the union has to recognize that marriage as legal. And it has to grant those two people the same legal rights as any married person in their state. So this is a wonderful way to codify, put into law, gay marriage and protect it. And it was very bipartisan. Of course, most of the Democrats, I think all the Democrats voted for it because it's usually a left agenda item. But in the House of Representatives, 39 House Republicans also supported it. And in the Senate, 12 Republican senators also supported it. So this has now passed both the House and the Senate, and it's on the way to President Joe Biden's desk to be signed. And it is generally thought that he would sign it, that he is going to sign it. And that'll probably be a big feather in a cap for that administration. So I'm just pointing this out. I don't know where you stand on the old marriage divide. Doesn't matter. What I'm pointing this out is this is an example of how we aren't as divided of a country politically as the narrative tries to spin us. Because if we can get something like this to have this kind of bipartisan support, it's a wonderful glimpse in the fact that we're all coming together more than we actually think. There was another legislative example of us coming together in the House of Representatives this week. The National Defense Authorization Act, which is the act that authorizes the defense budget. Basically, it's what gives the military the money to operate. And right now, there isn't one that has been passed, and people are concerned about that. But the House, at least, has passed one. And it's very interesting because the House has passed one, but it will only pass one if the military removes the vaccine mandate. And, this is an issue near and dear to my heart. So while most of the Republicans, maybe almost all the Republicans voted for that, authorizing the budget if they eliminated the vaccine mandate. 200 House Democrats also voted for it. So it has passed the House by a huge margin. I think it's in the Senate right now. It's expected to pass the Senate. And then we'll see what the president has done. He's kind of dug his heels in the sand here about the vaccine mandate in the military, but they do want to fund the military. So we'll see what happens. But that was a huge demonstration of bipartisan cooperation in the House of Representatives. I mean, 200 House Democrats voting for that, joining with their fellow Republicans. That's unheard of. And that's the interesting, why is that unheard of? And had you heard of it? Because it's a wonderful glimpse and a wonderful demonstration that we're not as divided as politically as the narrative usually tries to spin it. So I'm going to see that as a really great thing and a glimpse of the real world. Now, even globally, another amazing thing happened this week, and it has to do with the white paper protest that was going on in China. So, maybe you heard of this, maybe you didn't, but China has had incredibly the strictest COVID-19 lockdown policies in the world. And when anybody tests positive for COVID, they just really strictly lock down whole huge cities with millions and millions of people. And it's called their zero COVID policy. They will allow no cases of COVID at all. And, this has put tremendous hardship on China and the Chinese people over the past couple of years. And a situation arose in the city of Urumqi, I believe that's how you pronounce that, or similar, which is in northeastern China. I think Urumqi has a population of about 3 or 4 million. Okay, so they were in this severe COVID zero lockdown. And that means, in China, they put up barricades blocking streets, and they actually lock people in their apartment buildings. So in one of these locked apartment buildings, a fire broke out, and the firefighters couldn't easily get to the building because of the road barricades. And it is estimated that maybe 40 people died in this fire. The Communist Chinese Party, the CCP, says only 10 people died, but regardless, people died. And this started protests in China. And remember, it's kind of illegal to protest in China. They don't have the same rights that we do. It's been very, very, challenging to protest in China. And so one of the things that the protesters did, so as not to get in trouble later, saying they stood for something that they aren't allowed to stand for, instead of their protest signs saying what they were protesting, they just held up big white pieces of paper. And they said, everybody knows why we're here. We don't have to write it on the pieces of paper. And so that's why it's called the white paper protest. You had all these people protesting in the streets. Very interesting thing to see, holding up these big sheets of blank paper. Now, when there's protests in China like this, and these were huge protests, they happened in multiple cities all over China because, the people have just been suffering under these COVID zero policies. But, people remembered the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989, which were much smaller than this. That was mostly students protesting. But in 1989, to crack down on the protests, the CCP used military force. And, it's hard to find out how many people died during that. Some estimates say as many as 10,000 people died. Of course, the CCP says only 200 people died, but obviously a lot of people died. And so there was a lot of prediction of real mass bloodshed because nobody thought the Communist Chinese Party would back away from their COVID zero policy. But you know what? They did. They decided to change their COVID zero policy. They actually listened to the people. This is a miracle. This is amazing. This is a glimpse that things maybe aren't as awful as we frequently get them spun. The Course says, whenever anyone can listen fairly to both sides of any issue, he will make the right decision. So apparently, the CCP must have listened a little fairly to both sides of this issue. And so they made an announcement that they're dropping their COVID zero policy and lightening up their COVID restrictions, and the protests, died down, and tensions eased. And as I saw a lot of little news stories talking about how we should expect mass bloodshed, but the minute the tensions eased, I saw almost nothing talking about how they got an unexpected result here. They got a miracle, but I saw it. And I saw that as, again, one of these little glimpses. And what a great holiday gift that is. Course of Miracles says, again, this was in the reading that Reverend Peter read, this Christmas, give the Holy Spirit everything that would hurt you. Let yourself be healed completely, that you may join with him in healing. And let us celebrate our release together by releasing everyone with us. We need to give everything that would hurt us to the Holy Spirit. We need to give our ideas of a government that's dysfunctional and totally partisan. And we need to see that isn't always the case. Had two wonderful examples this week that wasn't the case. We need to let go of this idea that, the communist Chinese regime is like amazingly oppressive and always brutalizes its people. Well, I guess not always. Sometimes the miracle happens, and we need to see these as glimpses of the real world, giving us the vision that healing and light and joy are here. So along with the wonderful brightly lit homes I see glimpses of heaven and joy and peace and abundance all over. And I'm choosing to know that it indeed is beginning to look a lot like Christmas, both here in my home city of San Francisco, but in the country of the United States of America, and in the world as a whole. And I am really grateful, and I'm here to celebrate that. Okay, that's my talk for today. Thank you very much.
Build it out of hickory bark.